I don't know if I want to watch this or not, but it's probably crazy. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, but I want to check it out because it's crazy.
The Cult of Baal, B-A-B-A-L. My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly, but behind closed doors, you know, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists. They told me that we belonged to the Cult of Baal, B-A-apostrophe-A-L. They told me this with consistency.
I've looked a little bit into Baal
While I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the Cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a...
Yeah, they're not doing the same things that they used to do, though. They're definitely doing modern things, and it's definitely still just as fucking evil, if not more evil.
Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge...
Yeah, you know how cults go.
To my experience, it is not.
Especially when somebody hears about it and is like, oh, the cult's eradicated. Okay, well, I'm just going to call my branch of the cult that, and just it'll still be that name of the cult, just a different cult.
This is what people perceive the Illuminati to be. It is...
I'm going to have to look up right after this video the Trilateral Commission, because apparently that's what Jeffrey Epstein says the Illuminati is.
A group of elites that practices forced and uses these crimes to control people. They happen to have a huge reach over politics and entertainment. To answer your basic question, why my family does this,
Wasn't this guy on the PKA podcast? Hold on. I think I remember him being there. I'm gonna still play this while I'm looking.
Because it was done to them. Because having one man bear as many children in a generation as possible.
He totally was. Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen probably every episode of PKA, so I've seen this guy multiple times. Yeah, that's funny. That's crazy that that's who I ended up watching.
And forcing them through...
I think he had a weird time in prison.
These traumatic events. They believe it creates a stronger bond. That creates more loyalty, that it keeps people from talking. And for the most part, they're right, because I'm the only one of my siblings who has directly spoken out about this. There are people who have hinted at it in their music.
Yep.
Of course.
We'll look at some more of this whole situation that she's talking about.
Justin Bieber has talked about being assaulted by Usher and Justin Timberlake at P. Diddy's parties, but I don't think it's a coincidence they've only gone after Sean Combs and not his other alleged perpetrators who were born into the bloodline. There seems to be a level of protection for people who are simply born into that world, contrasted with people like Sean Combs or R. Kelly, who joined as adults. But I was not in the boardrooms. I was a child on drugs.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of Jews run Hollywood. They're actually just Satanists. How about that? I already knew that, though.
So I can't tell you exactly who organizes this, exactly how it happens. It's just speculation and memory.
And you're a very powerful speaker, and you're very well researched. And we've had a lot of
She sounds like the chick from Men in Black 2.
survivors come on, and we salute you, you know, for the level of detail.
No, 1. It was the first Men in Black. It was the morgue lady.
The knowledge that you have. I think it was David Icke who woke me up to the ancient cults and the bloodlines that continue to these generations. And I think you're the first survivor, perhaps, who's actually detailed how that has continued over the ages.
Well, I mean, underneath, you saw that comment with the Oprah thing. That kind of was detailed a little bit. But you'd figure that wouldn't get out if Oprah was involved, or that was the moment where she was like, what the fuck? How do I get involved with these people?
So if you could maybe
It's so weird.
expand on that a little bit, I think the viewers would find this fascinating.
By the way, I don't think that all of the web of disgusting bullshit all around the world is happening because they're a cult of Baal. But it's quite possible that there's a chunk of it that is.
Specifically, would you like expanded on?
So what was the cult that you mentioned earlier, the ancient one?
The cult of Baal.
Baal, yes.
B-A-L.
Yep.
I know very little about it.
Same, but I know it was a thing.
My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly. But behind closed doors, you know, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists. Now, what I can understand, the public has caught on to this, but they call them the Illuminati, who are illuminated to the cult of Baal, who has successfully mythologized themselves as the Illuminati and convinced people that they are shape-shifting reptilians, you know, myths that can be perpetuated by the psychedelic nature of the tool that they use to abuse victims, which is used to delegitimize people who catch on to what they have been doing. And to be truthful, it was a reason I was anxious to come on here. You know, when people talk about seeing men turn into lizards,
I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan.
Makes everything seem a little bit more delegitimate.
Revelation 2:9.
Now, when someone has been given a powerful drug, their minds can experience something like that. They can witness something like that. And it's something that kept me very confused as a child. I'm in the material world, in this plane. I'm being assaulted by my father, my uncles, my cousins. But my mind is somewhere else. My mind is going on this fantasy ride. And when I awake, I'm very confused. I also believe there are people who have talked about these outlandish, metaphysical, impossible experiences intentionally to derail conversations about the cults and their power in media and politics.
Which we kind of already knew that was happening. So I have no reason to not believe her.
Are these Satanists in high society, and are they disguised?
I asked Brave about it, and it was like, of course not. No, there aren't any Satanists pretending to be Jews. That's dangerous anti-Semitism. And I'm like, well, if it's possible that it could be done, do you not think that Satanists would try that?
Yes. They control so much more than I think even I can understand. I told you my father boasted that his grandfather was Walt Disney. Now, I remember when Viacom bought Fox, but Fox held a hard line on not selling the news station.
Oh, I wonder why that
Steve
is.
raged and cried for a month because that would have been a full monopoly on the American news market. I remember meeting all sorts of politicians, American and foreign, and entertainers.
I think the viewers would be very curious then about Jeffrey, and what's your view on his role in the apparatus?
My understanding is that he, I met him in Aspen in 2007. And that was a reintroduction. My father said, "Hey, remember your Uncle Jeffrey?" And Jeffrey said, "Hey, Anya, it's great to see you again." Jelaine was there. What they told me was that Jeffrey worked for Stephen.
He worked for
And
a lot of
as
people.
I've said, he's guilty for what he did to those teenage girls here in New York City and down in Florida. On St. Andrews. But I do not believe he was in charge of orchestrating what has been gone on in our family for generations. With my experiences, I believe he wanted to talk more about the other parties involved. And I know he didn't kill himself. I'm not sure whether they let him go and get plastic surgery and flee the country, or if they did.
That's probably what I think. He probably didn't even get plastic surgery. He's probably just chilling somewhere where they don't allow any kind of tracking.
Kill him.
If he's still alive.
But I do believe he was a pawn, and that...
I don't think he was a pawn. I think he was just one of the pieces. You know, he could be any of them. He might even be one of the returned pieces. Like, you know, whenever you get one of your pieces back.
His story blew up in the media.
And there might be somebody that just, he filled the guy's spot. Somebody's going to fill his spot. And it's not really that it's controlled that somebody put him there. It's just naturally going to happen.
Keep people from looking beyond him.
That's what happens whenever you fill in the cracks. Or when you make it a point to fill in the cracks.
Jeffrey was the one villain.
With yourself.
In charge of it. Then,
He died. What happened here? My internet's still on. Why'd the video stop? Don't tell me this was removed or something.
He's dead. It's all over. Everything's good now. And that leaves my father free to continue 3-year-olds and running Viacom from behind a veil while his paralegal runs his divorce practice, as he bragged about to me growing up.
So you're saying that Jeffrey wasn't involved in the full-on occult practices. He was just part of a machine, and then they just used him to make an example.
Yeah, well, fuck, man. That's pretty much what I've gathered. Outside of what she's saying, I think she might be telling the truth. Or maybe she's not, and she's just also noticing pattern. The pattern of Jeffrey Epstein and all of the evil bullshit that's around him.
Sample out of?
And that he was involved in?
He was involved in the full-on occult practices, but not necessarily of his own volition.
It's just what you gotta do.
I have memories of...
He was just wanting to, you know, study shit. Get ahead. Find new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. And he was a fucking monster.
Then being forced to assault me when they didn't want to. I remember one man, this brilliant comedic actor, actually his better dramatic work.
I bet, like, the way she's saying it, it's like he had it in his head, gotta do what you gotta do. And you know what? That's fucking evil too. I don't give a shit if he was doing it for good. The ends justify the means. Nope. I'd rather die. I ain't getting involved in any of that shit for any reason. You'd have to kill me before I'd get involved in any of that.
My father's screaming at him, telling him to penetrate me, and he makes one thrust and backs away, and my father gets outraged and says, "You're going to come. You're going to come." And this poor man is crying
What the
throughout
fuck?
it. And I'm barely conscious. Jeffrey may have been involved in the full-on occult practices, but he's not one of the hardcore of this sickness where they are actually attracted to small children.
I think she's right. Honestly, I do. From all of the things that I've seen, he more had a part in like older kids, like older teenagers. There are some worse people out there. They're like actual cannibals that eat children. Apparently a bunch of that stuff popped up in the Epstein Files, and I don't exactly think that was really Epstein. I don't know. I haven't looked at him. I think that was just part of this web of disgusting bullshit, that it was part of the world that Epstein was involved in. It was just his name was on it because he was the one that got ousted.
Yeah, Lady C mentioned that as well about a hebephile or something versus. So, in terms of Maxwell, then, who do you think? What do you think her role was?
I think she enjoyed it, much like my stepmother did.
Power.
I think she is as guilty of as Jeffrey was. But I didn't know her very well. I don't even remember a conversation with her.
Kind of obvious
I remember
she's evil.
seeing her. I think she got off on the power of it.
Yep.
I think with men who engage in hebephilia, it's more of a sickness that arises from their own abuse. My grandfather, my alleged grandfather, Walt's son, who worked for the CIA, allegedly faked his death to remove himself from my mother because he was so sickened by what he could not control doing to her.
I'm gonna get some confirmation on some of
I
this.
contrast that with my stepmother,
Like, you can say some of this stuff. I'm
who
gonna need to see it.
delighted in abusing me and laughed at me when I was incapacitated by the drug they had me on and made fun of.
Because, like, I could see all the things she's saying being true, but also I feel like I already knew all the things she was saying was true, so she might just be saying those things.
Drooling on myself, being unable to speak. I think with her and with Ghislaine, I'm certain they were abused as children themselves.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of psychopathy that grows within them where they get off on the power of it and abetting in these acts to please their partners. Now, Kari Epstein was more sexually attracted to me than she was to her husband, Stephen. But she did also do these things in order to stay in good graces with him. And that was more out of survival. Kari was a very broke cellist in her early adulthood. with no familial support, whereas Ghislaine also comes from the aristocracy. She had access to her own funds independent of Jeffrey, so I can't speculate too much on what she gained from it out of psychopathic pleasure and sadism. A schadenfreude of sorts. But I'm not a doctor. She was not a large presence in my life.
This chick also has kind of a problem where she sounds like the chick from Men in Black. Seriously, she does. Like, she sounds like she might be acting in a movie. That's what it seems like a little bit. But I've also met people who do sound like that. I know a guy who sounds like this, and when he talks to you, he really does sound like this. And he sounds like he's always like a radio announcer or something. And he's not. So people can just be like that. So I don't know.
That speculation on her personality is primarily based on what I know about my stepmother.
So would you say then that some of the techniques used on you would be classified under the MK Ultra program?
Yes. Absolutely.
Could you explain that? Could you explain that for viewers who are not familiar with MK Ultra?
Okay. These drugs were administered to me when I was an infant. Macro doses were given every single time I was assaulted. And I was kept on micro doses the rest of the time in my waking life, to maintain some control, some separation from my peers. I actually didn't realize until very recently that I was kept on micro doses, that I was kept on a small dose in my regular waking life. But upon analysis of what would happen when I went on school trips away from Denver for a few days at a time, we would take trips to Washington, D.C. or New York or California. On those trips, after 3 or 4 days, I would actually start getting along with my classmates, and they'd be amazed. They'd say, "Wait, Anya, you're really cool and fun, and we like hanging out with you." And I would end up being the center of the group and not understand why suddenly I'm connecting socially. But then we'd go back home, I'd see my family again, and the next time at school or at synagogue, I'd feel in my own weird little bubble again. So I was put on these large doses designed to knock me out when I was assaulted. Small doses to keep me complacent the rest of the time.
It's really fucking hard to believe her. It's really hard to believe this story to be true because it sounds so fucking insane. But at the same time, it's totally things that were happening, so I don't know. I have no idea. That's why I'm saying take it with a grain of salt, because this shit's so weird.
What this
so
did
many people connected
was sever my memory.
Like, this shit is so connected that it literally affects every single person in the entire world. That's how bad this shit is. Because the problems trickle down. Everything is connected.
Everything that happened to me, everything that was boasted about to me, that occurred on those large doses, was locked away in what I thought was a nightmare fantasy world. I was primarily unconscious for the physical assaults.
This shit sounds crazy. She sounds crazy. Either one, it did happen. And this is fucked. Or two, she is making it all up. And she thinks it's real. Because I think she does think it's real. But she also could be acting. And still thinking it's real. Almost like method acting. She is moving forward as if her brain is saying it's real. And she's not sidestepping.
And if I was
Seen this happen a lot. People will just make shit up like that and just roll with it and trick themselves into thinking that it's true while they're saying it. And they can line it all up because they know exactly how everything works. So they just throw themselves in there or throw in some crazy shit.
awake, I was so high, I thought it was my own nightmares. This ensured I wasn't going to go telling anybody about it. This ensured I thought I was sick.
Yeah, once again, she's just saying this shit and there's no evidence being shown.
My family does this. The Cult of Baal does this. They do MK Ultra because forging these trauma bonds forges more loyalty.
That's true.
And
But she also could just be saying that because everybody knows that's true.
99 times out of 100, victims will choose being with other victims over trying to speak to eventually prevent there being more victims.
She's right.
And I'm talking to you because the children who are going through it right now, one day, are going to wonder why nobody cared enough to try to stop it, to try to say something.
I wonder why that is.
Now they'll either find
Because it runs too fucking deep.
me, or they will choose to keep their mouths shut because they will understand why, for the most part, victims of MK Ultra choose loyalty over truth.
This chick kind of got him. She kind of got him. So, like, in the realm that she is lying, then she's just lying. And she's just, got the views because of this. In the realm that she's telling the truth, if they kill her, everything that she said is true. How about that? She got him in a rock and a hard place if this shit is true.